Hello, and you are listening to Week 16 of Oneness Project Light One-on-One with Israel Kelly. I'm your host, Cassandra. For those of you that are new, welcome, and thank you for joining us. Our purpose for each episode is to enhance your understanding of life, the universe, and the world around us by exploring a specific topic more in depth through the eyes of Source. As many of you know, Israel Kelly is fully coalesced with Source energy and has been granted with the universal knowing. He is here to bring messages of love to humanity and to facilitate all of us with the expansion of our consciousness. In last week's episode, Israel Kelly shared his divine knowledge on the subject of past lives, where we learned that all is happening right now, in the present moment of now. I sometimes have a hard time wrapping my mind around this. It sounds so simple yet so complex at the same time. Anyhow, tonight we have a great topic. Israel has chosen to discuss the topic of God. So who better else to tell us than Source himself? And here's Israel Kelly now. Hello, Israel.
Thanks for having me, Cassandra.
You know it's always a pleasure to have you, Israel. Moving right along to our topic for tonight, my first question for you is, Israel, can you tell us who God is?
God, as mostly humanity referred to, that divinity, prime creator, has many, many names. God is energy, that source of things. All there is energy, and he doesn't have a gender. Energy doesn't have a gender. Source doesn't have a gender. So, referred to as a god or goddess, just a human interpretation of that reality, of that understanding, of that way to try to understand the divinity, the aspect of divinity of God. God is, if we're going to use the same term, so most people using these recordings to understand more about spirituality. They listen because they're willing to learn. They're willing to understand things in a wider perspective, and a way to help them to understand would be to use the singularity of that way to understand that interpretation about God and use the name of God. There's many other different ways humans use to call it. It depends on the different religions and belief. However, everyone is referring to that creator, that prime creator, that source of energy, all there is, which is where everything comes from, and we call it God.
Thank you for that, Israel. Now, how did God become to be? Did someone or something create God himself or herself? Who created God?
How God become to be. That while in physical form or in non-physical form will be the same answer. That energy has always existed. While in non-physical form, time doesn't exist. It's not there. We only have the time and space while in physical form, planet Earth, and the concept of time doesn't exist. So to try to speculate about a time frame in which the existence of that energy occur, the answer, the more accurate answer will be that that energy is eternal, something that is eternal, something that is infinite. And it will be always there. So there's not such a thing as an explanation, an answer about who created God or how come God came to exist or how long ago or anything like that. Time is just a concept that applies to time-space reality, and the answer to that is that very simple: God. as we call it in human terms. It's eternal, it's infinite. It doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end.
Wow. I've always known that God is eternal and infinite, and I've heard it said many times, but when you said it just now, it sounded so profound, knowing that God is. No one or nothing created him or her, and that he or she has always been in existence for all of eternity. It's just really fascinating to hear the confirmation of this. Thank you, Israel. Can you tell us, what is God's purpose?
The topic of details to try to explain God are very complicated. The easiest, not the way, but one of the ways to understand about that divinity, when you ask me about the purpose of God, is to know Himself or to know itself, to know herself experientially through us, through any type of physicality, by sending expansion of His own energy in physical form to have experience in many other realms, including time-space reality, and to know, to experience things, experience concept in a physical way. That will be one of the ways to explain the God purpose.
Thank you. Where is God, Israel? Are you able to tell us where God resides?
God is everywhere. God is all there is. God is in everything. God is in plants and animals. That consciousness, that energy, that life, that constitute our reality, the way we see it, the way we understand it. Not only here, but in many other realities that we are not aware while on physical form. Some of us were not aware of that. Others that they are granted with the remembrance and the knowing, they are able to move from different dimensions and understand things in a wider perspective, but they don't really apply to time-space reality. So where is God? God is everywhere. God is here. God is there. This is not the same way you breathe in air right now. Wherever you go, if you go to another country, another continent, you will breathe air. You'll be alive. So your life as God manifested is a way to understand. It's not the way to understand. It's the closest way that while in human form, somebody like me or many others trying to expand and help people to expand their consciousness can explain that divinity, that way to understand. Not a final answer about things, but a way to understand. And in reality, is that God is all there is, and God is everywhere. Everywhere.
Thank you, Israel. That's beautiful. Tell us, Israel, what does God look like? I know that God is energy. Can you describe to us any more details about his appearance or her appearance?
Energy doesn't have a form, but energy can become anything that energy wants to become. While in physical form, a non-physical form, so that energy we call God. It doesn't have a body that we understand. The energy doesn't have a form that humans are able to understand while in physical form. However, God can adapt himself to any way, to any form he likes, to any body he wants to experience. So it doesn't have a form, but it can become anything he wants.
Tell me, Israel, are there many gods, or is there only one supreme being?
That's a very good question. To understand the answer, you will have to remember who you are. You are now an aspect of divinity, an aspect of that energy, an aspect of God, now occupying physicality in this form of yours as a human. With that being said, you are part of this whole thing. You are part of all there is. God is all there is, and we are an aspect of that supreme being in physical form every time we're coming into physical form. It's like a big clump of energy that has a lot of bodies attached to it. That's our consciousness, that is us. while in physical form. And when we do the transition from physical to non-physical, we disconnect ourselves of this body we have. Life is eternal, so we never die. We just change forms, and we come back to that energy. So that's the essence. The essence is to understand that we are an aspect of God. We are an aspect of that supreme energy, the supreme being, and is all there is. So it's one energy that constitute all we are. It's one single energy.
You mentioned just now that we are all aspects of God. Is that the same as saying that we are made in the same image of God, Israel?
There is a misinterpretation when we say to be created as an image of God. It's not an image that you can understand, like having arms, having legs, and having a physical body, having a human body, or any other type of body. When we're talking about the image of energy, is being that unconditional energy, that eternal love, that infinite love, that divine essence. That is the easiest way to understand when books, a religious book, says that we are made of the image of God. It's not talking about a physical expression of that image. It's talking about the essence of life, what that image of God constitutes, which is the unconditional love that we are, while non-physical form, and we induce ourselves to forget the essence of who we are, which is love, which is unconditional love, in order to have a human experience. So the answer to the question is are we in this, made of the image of God? Yes, the image of that energy that we call God.
Since God is present within each and every one of us, does this mean we are all gods, Israel?
Yeah, all humans are an aspect of that energy, an aspect of God. Yeah, it's a way to be a god on earth, to be an angel on earth. Not the same way that it could be understood in human terms, because we have limitations of humans. We don't fly. We don't disappear. We don't do any magical thing. We're here to be humans. We're here to go through the human experience. However, whatever the mind can conceive and think and imagine, it can happen. We are here for the experience. We are an aspect of divinity. We are an aspect of God having a human experience. That's what we are. So, are we gods? Yes, we are God on earth having a human experience. We are an aspect of that divinity. Divinity having a human experience.
Earlier, I had asked you what God's purpose was, and you answered that one of God's purpose was to experience life through us. Tell me, Israel, why are we here?
The purpose of life is to create ourselves anew. In the grandest version of the greatest vision we ever held about who we are. Is to announce and become, express and fulfill, experience, and know our true self. We come into a physical form to try things out, to explore, to expand, to deal with a contrast, to have a human experience.
You also mentioned earlier that we are all gods since we are all aspects of gods. If all 7 billion of us are all divine gods and goddesses, why is it so hard for most of the population to hear this and accept this?
Same way it was for other generations in the past to understand that there was only one God. When they were worshiping different gods and God-shipping different gods and all that. It was very difficult for them to understand that it's just one energy. That's all there is. That's everything. It's not different gods for different things. And it was very difficult for them. And now it's very difficult for in this time for humanity to understand who they really are. And that's part of the experience. Little by little, it will take time. It's progressing. It's moving pretty fast. Many people are understanding things that 20, 30 years ago there was not even possible to have a conversation about those things. When I was a child, I remember my grandfather, when I was like, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, gave me a book, an esoteric book, and that was a big thing in the family, you know. It was considered like that was Satanism and a demonic thing, and it was a book I shouldn't read and so on. And it was just a book talking about consciousness. It was not a big deal. But back 20 years, 30 years ago, it was a big deal. Now, people little by little are expanding, accepting new concepts. The belief is changing. The belief is expanding. And we're changing for the better.
Thank you for sharing your childhood experience with us, Israel. It's always so nice to hear about your life stories. Can you tell us, how can we talk to God?
How can we talk to God? That's the easiest thing. God is talking to us. That energy is talking to us. That inner guidance, the aspect of divinity is talking to us as humans all the time. All the time, never stop. You only have to quiet yourself. You only have to remove those doubts and limitations and resistance, and believe in yourself. Believe in your inner voice, your inner guidance. Just listen and have a conversation. Whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to pray, if you want to meditate, if you want to be by yourself, if you want to listen to music, whatever will help you. That you think that will help you to connect within yourself. You don't need to follow nobody. You don't need to do anything whatsoever. All the answers for every single human being are within themselves. Whoever is telling you that you need to follow them, or you need to do this, you need to do that, run away from them the fastest you can. You humans don't need to listen to anybody. You just have to speak to yourself, to listen to your inner voice, connect within yourself, connect with your inner guidance, connect with that larger part of yourself, get into the vortex. That God, that divinity of which we are part of, never stop talking to humans. It's who we are. We are an aspect of that divinity. So talking to that part of us is like talking to ourselves.
Thank you for that, Israel. Many of us pray to God, and many of us ask for God's help. Can you tell us, does God answer all of our prayers?
Of course, our prayers are answered. However, we need to get into the vicinity of those things we want. We need to vibrate positive. We need to be aligned to those things that we want, those things we ask for. We ask and we shall receive. However, you need to put yourself aligned to those wantings, aligned to that positive vibration to get a positive manifestation. We'll be thinking about it, talking about it, and moving towards to it, which is thought, word, and action. Of course, our prayers are answered. However, we need to accept. We need to accept that help. We need to accept being close to it, full of doubts and full of restrictions, of confusion, not being able to get into that state of mind in which we have that peace of mind with ourselves. We're going to call that to be within the vicinity of the vortex. No prayer is going to work whatsoever, because will be blocking ourselves from getting those things that we're asking for by rejecting with our own actions, with disbelief, with doubts. If we have faith, we have faith in the things we ask for, of course our prayers and things we want, that will become manifested. We need to stay positive.
Thank you so much, Israel. So just to clarify what you said, yes, God answers all of our requests, but our job is to get into the vortex, or to keep ourselves aligned in a state of joy and positivity in order to allow whatever it is we have asked for to come to us, or to manifest in our reality. So the saying, ask and you shall receive, is absolutely true, but it's up to us whether we allow it to come to fruition. My next question for you is, does God exist in all of creation? And you kind of touched on this question earlier when I asked you where God resides. Tell us, Israel, does God exist in all things?
Yes, Cassandra, God exists in all there is. Like I said from the beginning, we keep on referring, we keep on using the word God, just to make people that are listening to this recording comfortable with that idea. God, Goddess, there's not that energy, that supreme being doesn't have a gender, and we use the term of God because it's what we are familiar with that concept. However, God is not a female, it's not a male, it's everything, is all there is. So God is everywhere. God is on flowers, on plants, on animals, on the rocks, on the air, on water. All that exists, all there is God manifested, is God going through different of many different experience of things. All that has consciousness, everything has consciousness. One single self assistant, which is have consciousness as well, is God. One way or another, it has that energy, it has that essence of life that we call God.
Since we are discussing the topic of God, can you tell us, are the stories and legends of the Greek gods and goddesses and Egyptian gods and goddesses, are they true, or are they just fictional stories passed on through the ages?
That's another very good question. Before humans like now were able to have a different perspective about that divinity, about God, way back before Egyptians and Greeks and all that, humans, whenever it was a thunder, whenever it was raining, whenever it was any nature movement, any weather change, anything like that, or a sunny day, or the moon was out, or anything in that sort. Humans that did not understand any of those astral bodies, they started calling that God. The moon was God, the sun was God, the stars were God, and rain and the fire later, and so on. So after many generations, and before the singularity of just one single belief of just one God, humans used to believe in everything. Anything was a God for them. Anything that they were not able to understand. If there was a earthquake or a hurricane or anything like that, there was thought that God, or that energy, or that God was punish them for whatever, and they worship this and worship that. So when it comes to time to the Egyptians and the Greeks and all that, they still believe and make rituals to things, to stones, and it was many gods, and many people lost their life trying to defend the point that it was just one God instead of many gods, until it comes to the time in which religions were created and a new belief came to assist, and humans started thinking and seeing that belief about God in a different way.
Thank you, Israel. That was great. Now, for my final question, being coalesced with source energy, can you describe to us, Israel, what it feels like to be merged with God? How does it feel?
I do not have human words in which I can describe the feeling of being coalesced with source energy. And the main thing is that any body, any single human of the 7 billions on Earth and plus and counting, all of us, we can do the same with source energy. That's what we are. That's who we are. That's that's the essence of life. We're here for the experience. We're here to go through that life. We are source energy. Being coalesced with source energy is something that anybody can achieve. It's who we are. It's just remembering who we are while in non-physical form, while being on physical form. It's a divine connection. It's a very intimate connection. It will be very difficult to explain in human words, but it's amazing, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's everything. It's feeling all there is everywhere, feeling love, unconditional love, being alive all the time, being the vortex and just get out to be human, and feeling this divinity within yourself, being connected, being able to talk every time you want, to help people, to feel yourself, to go through the experience in a different way. There's no words in which I can express how grateful I feel about this opportunity. It's just it's a great thing. I don't think that any word that I can say will be enough to describe the feeling of being non-physical coalesce.
Thank you so much, Israel. That was beautiful. You couldn't have described it any better. I know just from listening to your words and your answers from this evening how lucky we are to be able to have this discussion with you. You have shared with us so much about God and who God is, and we are truly blessed. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and for being with us tonight and for expanding our awareness about who we are. I love you dearly and unconditionally. Until next time, this is Cassandra for Oneness Project Light One-on-One with Israel Kelly. Thanks for listening.